Hello my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and tonight we got another book talk video to share with you guys. And tonight we are talking about Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. Now this is the first book from this author that I've read. It's a novella. It's very short. It's like just a hair over 100 pages. And I picked it up because I'd heard so many people over the past few years talking about If We Were Villains, which is a dark academia story, and it's always been on my list to read, but then I saw this one, I was like, well, we'll pick this one up first, dive in there, see how it goes. So how we're going to do this is I'll tell you the synopsis, give you some brief thoughts, and then we'll get into the spoilers. But I honestly don't know how long the spoiler section is going to be because the book is so short. There's not a lot to say about it. So anyway, it's about this group of, I think, 5 people, and they all have night shift jobs. Like one works the front desk at a hotel, one's a share ride driver, one's a bartender. And they all meet up at this really old graveyard by a college every night to smoke. They smoke. I love when smoking's in a book. Anyway, they chat. So that's where the book picks up. And, they're just talking, and they notice an open grave. And they're like, well, that's weird. Like, this is a very old graveyard. And they get kind of joking around with each other about, like, who dug that hole? Was it somebody trying to get out? Was it somebody getting ready to put something in? And eventually they hear someone coming. So they all kind of go their own way for the rest of the night. Smoke break over, off they go. 2 of them, Edie and a guy whose name I can't remember, they go to like this abandoned building that has like danger, do not enter sign, but they go in, and the bartender goes back to the bar because it's just everyone goes back to where they're going. The 2 that go into the abandoned building, they can see somebody coming and putting something in that open grave, and they're kind of like, what the hell? So basically from there the story goes with this like group all kind of trying to piece things together on their own. I kind of wish they all stayed together, but they're off on their own except for the 2 that are in the building together. And Scooby-Doo is mentioned multiple times in this book, and that is kind of what it reminds me of, like an episode of Scooby-Doo, but like with grown-ups. And so yeah, they're just trying to piece it together because also, aside from this, in the town there have been weird things happening. Like, people are acting out of the ordinary. Like, one guy, the bartender, is telling us about this one guy that goes in there one day, and just, a mild-mannered guy they'd seen before, and all of a sudden he freaks out and gets violent. And they're like, what? That's so weird. And so this is happening occasionally throughout the town. And that's the basic synopsis. It's like trying to figure out what's going on. I'm honestly still trying to figure out how I feel about it. I liked it, but I feel like it should have been longer because it's so short. There's not really enough time to like get invested in the characters. Like, I didn't really care about any of them because I didn't know them. I was like, I don't know you. Who are you? This felt like it maybe was an idea for a novel that got scrapped, like didn't really go anywhere, and she thought she could, she thought instead she'd turn it into a novella. But I feel like it would have benefited from being longer. And then the ending comes, and I'm just kind of like, oh, like, that's it? So, like, the writing was good. I didn't hate it, but I was left a little cold. We'll just say that. I think I'm going to give it 3 stars. I'll still definitely, hopefully soon be checking out If We Were Villains, because like I said, I enjoyed the writing, but this just wasn't quite it for me. If you don't want any spoilers, now's the time to click away. And we'll get into what's going on and where it kind of goes. So, scram if you don't want to hear it. Anyway, so as the book goes on, what we're kind of learning is that there's some sort of fungus. So from the 2 people that are in the building, there's rats in there, and one of the rats is dead. Like, it's crawling up the guy. The guy ends up killing it. I don't know this guy's name. There's Theo, and there's this guy. I think his name also started with a T, but I can't remember. Which is rare, because I can usually remember the characters' names at least, but I think where it was so short. So there's a rat. It's dying. It dies. And then the guy sees the, like fungus growing out of it. And so they kind of discover that what the guy's throwing in the grave is all these rats. And they're like, well, that's weird, because normally when, the university is having to do any sort of testing or whatever on the rats, they, like, incinerate them when they're done. But they're putting them in this hole. So that's those two. Then we've got the bartender, who one of the girls calls him, and she's like, the guy is headed away from the cemetery. Go out and see if you can see him. Like, the guy that was digging the grave. So he goes out. The guy's having car trouble. Invites him back to the bar for a drink. Gets him drunk. He's trying to get info out of him. So that's this one. Then Hannah, we learned that she was a part of a sleep study, because they're all these guys are insomniacs, which is why they've taken night shift jobs. So Hannah, she's now the rideshare driver. She was doing a sleep study to help her sleep, and it was working. But then all of a sudden it got cut off. And she's pissed because she was enjoying being able to sleep. So she goes to, she gets one of the guys who was running the sleep study. She gets him in her car, and she's like grilling him. And she's like, why did you cancel the sleep study? What's going on? And he's like, we realized there was terrible long-term side effects. And she's like, tell me what they are. And he's like, okay. What we noticed in the rats was that they were getting aggressive. They were getting unpredictable mood swings. This, that, and the other thing. Cannibalism. She's like, excuse me, cannibalism? He's like, yeah. And she's like, how long do I have until that happens to me? He's like, well, we don't know it's going to happen to you. But it did happen to the rats. She's like, oh my God. So she lets him go. Then, they're all kind of... We learned that the guy that was in the building, the guy whose name I don't know, he's homeless. He had to drop out of college because he couldn't pay his student loans. But that doesn't make sense, at least here in Canada, because in Canada, you don't have to start paying back your student loans until 6 months after you're done school. So why are they kicking him out of school for not being able to pay his loans? Unless in America you have to pay your loans while you're in school, but that does not sound right. So I found that a little confusing. So eventually the bartender offers him a job at the bar, and he's like, well, where am I going to stay? I can't pay rent on a bartending wage. And he's like, well, I got a spare bedroom. You can stay with me. So that kind of clues up their storyline. Then you've got Hannah and Tamara, I think. And they're dating, they're at least sleeping together. I don't know if they're dating. And much to Hannah's chagrin, because she really likes Tamar, but she doesn't like really liking anybody. And then right at the end, she's in the mirror, and she sees something growing on the bridge of her nose. And then it ends. And you're like, the fungus, I guess. But it just ends so abruptly. And I was like, what do you mean that's the end? And that was it. That was it. I have a lot of questions. Like I said, I didn't care about anybody. Not a single one of them, because there's not enough time to get... it's a very surface level story. There's not a lot beneath the surface. Which is fine. But it was interesting, and I wish there was more. So, that tells you I was enjoying it. I was just left, so that's it. But let me know in the comments if you've read... Well, let me know if you've read this. But also let me know if you've read If We Were Villains, and should I read it? So I feel like I would like it. But I was just left kind of... I could take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. And so... I wouldn't overly recommend it. It's so short, but it's just as expensive as a full-size book. That's all I've got for you. I was really pumped for this one. I was like, this is gonna be great. But, you know, I'm sure some people love it. This is just my experience. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.